Do I have to hit got it?
Yeah, probably. Let's see. Sounds great already. Nice. Sounds great already. Yeah. Oh, that was great. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Chris Blondal, the drummer in that video. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Cathy. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor. You've had many amazing people on here.
Thank
So
you. I'm
I
so
appreciate
glad.
you asking.
I'm glad you're here. Yeah,
Me too.
I've always loved your drumming.
Oh, shucks. Thank you.
You know, it's interesting. I'm never sure how to describe a drummer like you. So what I do is I say, you know, they're more of a modern jazz drummer. Do you think that's a good description?
I guess so. I mean, that's kind of what I lean towards,
Yeah.
is trying to fit into that category. I've always been somebody who's trying to grow and reach all the time and try to play new things. And I'm definitely attracted to more modern styles of jazz. And that's what I lean towards.
Yeah.
Not to say that I don't like, playing older styles too, but
Yeah.
my heart, is pretty much in the sort of the new kind of styles of doing things, approaching things.
Yeah, it's so drummers, I mean, the category for me, drummers are so interesting in describing their playing and just how I remember in my original jam session, I had this bass player who was a really great bass player, and I was picking the band, so I thought the drummer was great, and he at some point he said, "Do not hire that drummer when I'm playing." I was so surprised because it sounded good to me. But
Yeah.
that's when I first realized, oh, okay, so bass players and drummers, they must view and feel differently, about their.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's some bass players in town that I just love to play with.
Yeah.
And there's some people where I'm like, I just put a gun to my head because it's driving me insane. And it's not that it's bad, it's just that they have a different conception and we don't really match.
Is it like the feel probably, or?
Yeah, it's kind of like, when you're having a conversation with somebody and there's just like this automatic flow.
Yeah.
And you feel good and you just like get on a roll and the things are just, and then some people you just like, it doesn't click and everything, you're talking over each other, or you're not interested in what this person's saying and your mind's drifting off or whatever. It just doesn't fit somehow. And that same person that you're talking to may have a conversation with somebody else and they may get along fantastically.
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't know, I'm just going to use like a crazy scenario. Let's say I'm hanging out somewhere and I meet somebody who's way into MMA fighting. I could talk about that for maybe 3 minutes, maybe, and then I'm done. If this guy's way into it and that's his world, then I'm like, all right, I'm not going to hang out with this dude.
That reminds me, sometimes I listen to Alan Alda's podcast.
Oh, I wanted to hear that. I know he's doing one.
It's really cool. He talks to a lot of scientists, but also other people, actors, but it's great. But he has 5 questions at the end, that he always asks. One of them is, how do you stop somebody from talking? And the other one that I like is, you're at a dinner party and you don't know the people next to you. How do you get into a good conversation? It's good, because, it's interesting because some people feel okay about, that kind of stuff. Like they're brave or adventurous or whatever it takes to kind of get a flow going,
I'll tell you, when I was younger, I was super shy. I mean, really shy, ridiculous. And it took me a long time to break out of that. And like, I'll give you an example. This is sort of an embarrassing story. Well, it's not that embarrassing. It's life, right?
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I guess I probably wasn't super shy, but maybe not like outgoing. And
Yeah.
I was more of an introvert. When I was a little kid, I was really shy.
Hmm.
So then um, as a young man, I decided I was so into music, and where I lived at the time, I didn't see much future in being a musician. So I thought, move to Los Angeles. My brother had already moved here, so it was sort of safe territory to come here.
Yeah.
And I started meeting people, and I started studying with some people. And this guy I was studying with said, what you need to do is go down to the Baked Potato, because Carlos Vega's playing there, and Mike Landau, and all these people I grew up listening to. They're playing down there, and Carlos Vega was studying with this same guy I was studying with at the time. So go down there, hang out, get to meet people. I was like, okay, I'll do this. So I went down to the Baked Potato, and everybody's kind of on the break. Everybody's kind of standing around in a circle. I had no idea of how to enter into a conversation with these people. First of all, I was nervous. It's like, people I've been listening to my whole life and never even imagined meeting. And then how do you enter into a conversation? So I just stood there, and everybody's like, who's this dude? So I just kept putting myself into those situations until finally I started to feel more comfortable in starting conversations and how to do it. And the other thing that really helped me too, honestly, it was teaching.
Oh.
And being around people all the time,
Yeah.
and having to converse with strangers and convey information. That really helped me as well.
Yeah.
I think teaching has been my greatest teacher, actually.
Yeah, teaching is wonderful. We touched on that just a little bit because I was telling you, and I'm just finishing a book. Hopefully, I say that because I've edited for so long, but on how the same lesson will apply in voice technique, in singing jazz, and in life.
Yeah.
And why I even came up with that, because I kept noticing it in teaching. It was like, God, this is a life lesson,
100%. And I'm sure it's probably the same on every instrument.
Yeah.
And particularly voice, because it's so, it's your body. But same with drums, it's such a physical instrument. And depending on how good you want to get at it, you have to learn how to relax. And you have to learn how to get out of your own way to let the stick do what you want it to do. So I started thinking about, as I was teaching people, I'm like, okay, you need to, get your fingers, relax your fingers so that the stick can do its thing. And if your fingers are tight, they're going to get in the way of the stick. It's much like life. If you keep trying to do something and you're pushing and it's not happening, you just have to get out of your own way and just allow it to happen, to unfold. And I started seeing the same thing. I started seeing these parallels. I'm like, holy shit, this is, I started realizing that teaching music and learning how to navigate your way through your life are kind of one and the same thing. And really understanding music and the conversations we have on the bandstand and off the bandstand, instead of trying to force your opinion on something on the bandstand, which everybody's going to hate,
Yeah.
Open up your ears and listen more, and
Yeah.
become part of the conversation instead of trying to force your opinion.
Yeah.
Here's a book that I've been studying. I'm going to interject this, paragraph that I memorized into this conversation that has nothing to do with anything just because I want to impress people. That's the same thing that musicians do. Like, I've been practicing this lick. I'm going to put it in, right here, and it doesn't belong. It's an interesting phenomenon that I've noticed as well. How
It is.
as far as
It covers even not, it covers everything, non-musical. Driving a truck or being a secretary. It's the same thing, because actually who we are, basically manifests through all actions, it does. And so, although some people aren't really aware of that, but it's pretty obvious to me that that's what happens,
100%. And I've been trying to live my life recently, well, maybe not recently, but being aware of it recently, of trying to be the best person that I can be and act on that principle.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost a Buddhist thing, do no harm, right?
Right.
Not everything I do is going to work out or be the right decision.
Yeah.
And learning how to accept that, just like in music. I try to interact and do the best things that I can do and play beautiful time and make everybody happy. But not every single time am I going to be successful. I try, and you learn. And, I'm a believer that everything, all the shit that we go through in our life is preparing us for, some great thing that's going to happen in the future. That now I've been through all this stuff, I'm prepared for this, just like practicing. If I didn't spend the hours sitting there working on this thing, then I wouldn't be able to play this music. It's all the same
Great,
thing.
isn't it? It's just, it's great. It's so yummy to kind of know about and see the examples in life, I mean, I was just talking about that yesterday about I have a friend from New Jersey, Paul Jost, who's a really great singer. And hey, Brad Rabuchin. Hi.
Hi, Brad. Brad's my hero.
Hi, Brad's my hero too.
I never tell him that, but he should know.
Don't tell him. Yes, Glasgow. Hi. But yeah, we were talking about, well, I was talking about how singers, the singers that really impress me the most are the people who are communicating truth, and
Yes.
as really present as they can. And it doesn't have to be perfect singing. And as a matter of fact, perfect singing usually is a downfall for me.
Yes.
And it's not that I turn away from perfect singing, but that's not the thing I'm looking for.
I'm with you. It's an expression of your soul.
Yeah,
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and that can make me absolutely lose it, like weep, like
yes, 100%.
Which is such a gorgeous thing for an artist to be able to do for people.
Yes, you just gave me chills. You just gave me chills. Yes, I'm the same way, and I was thinking about it this morning. I was thinking, I wonder, preparing in my mind, what's Cathy going to ask me? And I was thinking, what's she going to ask me about my influences and music I like and stuff like this? And then I started thinking about, the different musics that have changed my life and really turned me on to make me want to be a musician.
Yeah.
And then the stuff that intrigued me, but then I lost interest in. And I started thinking, why did I lose interest in that? And it's usually because it's just technical. It's like brilliant. You might listen to it and go, holy shit, that is amazing. But it lacks heart. And to me, I'd rather hear Thelonious Monk, because it's all heart and maybe less technique, than hear somebody who's a brilliant technician with zero heart. You may as well listen to a computer.
Yeah.
And it's weird how we as humans can pick that up. It's like you know it when you hear it. I don't know how to describe it, but you know it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because there's so many layers that we have, and I mean, that's what I've found over and over and over again. I try and be aware. I try and be aware and allow stuff to happen, and more and more I'm trying to think that there's no real bad and good, that it's all the makeup of the cloth, it's just
it's humanity.
Yeah.
Without the good, without bad, there'd be no good. How would you know the difference?
Yeah, and it's just all one thing.
And we're all that too, by the way. We're all that.
Yeah.
Inside of us.
Yeah.
It's just hopefully we're more good than bad.
And that's like you and I were talking a little before, that is kind of my purpose in this show. And I wrote down what I actually said to you, because for some weird reason I never said it. But really what I want to show is the process of living as an artist. And so I'm not particularly going for famous people. I'm just going for everybody, people I know, people I don't know, but people who are living as an artist. So because it's really interesting what's happened over the last, year and a half for me. you would think that I would know this anyway, but it's become so much more apparent that music is so much a part of everybody's life, and that we I don't know, maybe before the pandemic it was almost like we were taken for granted, and now we're not.
Mhm.
There's a lot more attention on artists,
Mhm.
and I think that's great.
Yeah, man, so true. I remember probably maybe in the middle of the shutdown. I mean, maybe towards the end, a friend called me and said, "Hey, it's my dad's birthday, and we're gonna have. I would just want to throw a thing for him. It's gonna be outside in my driveway, and everybody's wearing a mask." And I thought, okay, can it be any safer? I don't think so. I haven't played my drums with other people in like a year, so I'm gonna go do this. And we set up, and some neighbors across the street started coming out. And as soon as we started playing, they're like, "Oh my God, to hear live music again. Oh my God, thank you so much." And it was just like, wow. And I remember, what was it? During the pandemic, people were in New York, were going out on their balconies, and some
Oh
people would
yeah.
start singing, and everybody else would kind of chime in. It's like, wow, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
But to touch on like, living as a creative person, I think, we all know it's got its ups and downs, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There's the financial insecurity part that goes with it.
Yep.
But then there's the upside of it where, you're kind of like trying to dig deep into finding out what it means to be a human in a way. Because what you were talking about, like when you hear somebody sing and they're speaking their truth and they're coming from a deep place.
Yeah.
How do you get there? How do you do that every single time? You have to be fearless, really. It's difficult to have your soul bare for the world to see and be that vulnerable. That's what, when you're watching somebody and you get that emotional about it, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. You touched on something that I talk about often, and in fact I wrote about it in my book too. But I it's kind of fascinating to me to try and describe or teach how to get there immediately. What did you said something like that? Like you get in. How do you start in the magic space? And there's how do you tell students how to do that, or describe to people what that is?
Boy,
It's a very it's not a physical thing, right? It's not material.
no,
It's
not at
something
all.
else.
It's weird. It's in my mind, when I try to get there myself, I certainly don't do it every single time. There's certain ingredients that go into it. Number one, I have to be able to express myself on my instrument.
Yeah.
Which means I have to have some technical ability to do what I hear in my head. So if I haven't been able to get to my drums in a few days, and maybe my hands are feeling like, so maybe that's not, a good day. Or sometimes it's the exact opposite. If I haven't touched my drums in a few days and I got to go play, sometimes it's like, holy shit, I should not practice more often.
I know, but the next time it might not be like that.
It doesn't go that way.
No.
That's the same thing with like, you're playing with maybe somebody new, and you have like this moment where you're like, wow, that was a fun gig. I felt like it was just flowing and everything was on fire. And then the next night you have the same people, same thing. And it's like, I can't play. What happened? Because you go into it with these expectations of it's going to be this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it, is not having any expectations,
And being in the moment, right?
Being in the moment, Cathy Segal-Garcia. And that's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
So how do you teach somebody that? I think you have to, it starts with the student wanting to do that.
Yeah.
And recognizing that that's actually a thing.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't think people understand that's a thing. When you see somebody who's able to get up on stage and do that. That's an art. That's a skill.
Yeah, it
It's
really
not,
is a skill.
yeah. Getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
Have I talked about? I mentioned that the stick.
Yep.
Getting out of your own emotional way. Not being worried about what people think about you and just letting it all hang out. That's hard to do. You have
It's
to have a
really
lot of
hard.
confidence in yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, what I see when I'm teaching is, and I'm sure every instrument has some, some special different, thing, right?
Hmm.
And for vocalists, maybe it's because of words or they're out in front, but their focus, that's what it is. It's a focus thing. And their focus, like instead of being right here with the band and everything, all of a sudden they're focused on something else. It's like the words, or I'm forgetting the
Mm.
words, or look at that guy looking at me, or did
Hmm.
I sing that right? Or, all those little things.
I agree 100%. And you can mess yourself up.
Yeah.
And I read this book a while ago, a long time ago, and this woman was saying, she's a violinist, and she said what she does is she gets on stage and she imagines herself to be the air in the room.
Hmm.
And she just, it's like she can observe and she can wander around and to kind of get out of herself.
Yeah.
There's a big danger in, like, once you become aware
Yeah.
of yourself, then, then it kind of, things shrink in. And we're
Yeah.
supposed to be putting energy out into the world.
Yes.
Giving, and instead of going inward, we have to go outward.
That's exactly right. And I have a saying, it's you flow out, you don't flow in.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about that a lot because that's exactly what you just said. It has to be an outward thing. You have to be aware of, for singers especially, I try and make them aware they're the band. They're part of the band. They're not a singer out front. No, you're a musician. You just happen to your instrument is you, the voice and all
Yeah.
that, but you're part of the band, And I had a jam session for a long time. I think you probably came
I know.
and and it was really interesting. No matter how bad or good the singer, if they were not aware of the band, then the band didn't sound good.
Interesting.
And when they were aware of the band, magic happened. It
Yeah,
was
because you're
really,
part of the band, the musical experience. You're not removing yourself from it.
yeah,
Interesting. I never thought of singers as being that way, as like not feeling like they're a part of the musical experience. Like the band's backing me up and I'm here.
yeah,
And I never thought of it that way. It's, I guess, I got to hand it to you. I think I can't imagine anything more terrifying than being a singer or a comedian.
comedian would terrify me.
You're just by yourself on stage. I mean, singers aren't by themselves, they have bands, but you're up front and everybody's focused on you. As a drummer, I can kind of lay back and, I've learned to be in the front because I have my own bands and stuff.
Yeah.
And which is its own terror in itself, having your own band and putting your own music out there, and talk about a learning experience and learning how to get out of your own way and not be so self-consumed with everything. It's really difficult to do.
Yeah, I was talking with Bob Bowman yesterday, the bass player, and he actually leads bands a lot, and he said it's funny sometimes people are uncomfortable with that. It's like, how come you're calling the tunes and you're leading the band? It's like, well, because it's my band.
In my band, yeah.
That's basically it, and plus he's a great bass player. I have a question for you from Toby Simmons. Hi, Toby.
Hi, Tobe.
What's your grip style, traditional or matched?
I play matched grip pretty much all the time, unless I'm playing brushes.
I must admit, I don't know what that means.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Okay.
So I got some sticks.
Yeah.
So matched grip is like this, where both hands are doing the same thing. So there's variations on that. I don't want to turn this into a drum lesson, but you can play with your palms facing the ground. You can play a half turned over or thumbs facing up in the air, which is called French grip, and it's designed for more fingers This is more wrist, and you can use your fingers as well. Then there's what's called traditional grip, which a lot of jazz drummers do in their left hand, which is right hand doing this, left hand doing that. So the reason why drummers started doing this is because back in Civil War days, when they had a snare drum, you're a marching band, you have a snare drum on a strap. You're going to hang across your body, at an angle like this.
Yeah.
There was no, like today you have metal harnesses and stuff and you can get your snare drum flat. But back then, so if you held your sticks like this, you'd be up in the air like this playing.
Yeah.
And if you're marching through the battlefields, that'd probably get your elbow shot off. So they just went like this so they could relax and play this way.
Oh.
I never formally studied traditional grip, but I like it a lot, and I wish that I spent more time doing this. And I mess around with it sometimes, but I'm never confident enough to actually play a gig this way. But if you look at all the great jazz players throughout history, almost all of them use traditional grip, and that's a specific sound, and you can do specific things this way. So I've had to learn how to get those sounds and be able to play those same things this way. And now more drummers are playing this way, more modern guys. So does that answer your question? But with brushes, I find it I don't have brushes here. I find it way easier to play traditional grip to get the things I want out of the brushes. But when I have to solo with brushes, I flip back to traditional, to matched.
Match. Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Okay.
There's your answer.
I learned something. You'd think after all these years I would know, but I don't.
It's a bizarre thing. I studied hand technique for, most of my life, but when I moved here, I hooked up with a hand technique teacher, and I studied with this guy for a ridiculously long period of time.
Could you move your head into the camera?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did that so you could see my hands.
Hello.
Hi. And it's like, I suppose with vocal technique, you could study for a long time.
Yeah.
Because there's endless amounts of things to learn.
I'm still studying.
Well, me too.
Yeah.
I studied with this guy for probably 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And I kept thinking when I was first studying with him, I asked him, like, who's your longest student? And he was like, oh, this guy, he said, how long has he been studying? Like 25 years. I'm like, what? That's insane. How could you? He's like, well, you're always learning, and which is true, and things are always evolving. He passed away, and I started to change things a lot with my hand technique because I wasn't getting the sound that I wanted out of the drums. So I started changing and really studying other people and the people who I loved their tone, and I would try and emulate what they were doing and trying to figure out what they're doing. But I had such a good foundation from studying with this guy that it was easier to change things.
That wasn't the famous drummer here who was kind of crazy and what?
Well, they're all kind of crazy, but there's Freddie Gruber.
Freddie Gruber.
I took when I first moved, I took maybe like 4 months of lessons from him, and it wasn't working out for me. And then I met this guy Richard Wilson, and he just seen a lot of guys study with him too. And that was more of a good fit. But they were both they're unique individuals.
Well, teachers are really, so personal, and I really have tried not to take it personally when somebody changes from me, because it's just, you have a teacher for however long it is, and then you move on. And
yeah, and actually it's probably a good thing because I don't know everything, and I'm not the world's greatest teacher. I think I'm a very good teacher, but other people have different perspectives. I still learn. This whole pandemic, I've been studying a little bit from a guy in Brazil who's an amazing teacher and a great guy. And I've learned so much about playing Brazilian grooves from this dude, just doing Zoom lessons.
Yeah.
And I started doing that because my Sunday night gig that I do, the bass player is half Turkish and half Brazilian.
Oh.
And we would do a lot of Brazilian tunes. And I'm like, man, I gotta get my Brazilian shit happening. I kind of had the Americanized version of it, but I wanted to to really, know how to play it better.
Yeah.
So I've had like 4 or 5 lessons from this guy, and God, it's just like a whole world unto itself.
Yeah, definitely.
So so I always say, there's so much information. I don't know everything, and it's good to get information from other people too.
Yeah. Toby, I don't think it's Ahmed. It's the other guy, right?
Evren.
Evren. It's the guy whose gig it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Evren's great. He's such a sweetheart. And, and when we were doing those gigs at the beginning, we'd play these Brazilian tunes. I'm like, I'd walk away just going, man, it's kicking my butt a little bit. I got to get better at this.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Gosh.
So I spent half the pandemic, like 6 months, just really shedding that stuff.
Yeah.
Now I feel much better about it now, but it's a big, long journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been going through strange vocal changes, and which is hard to go through. I mean, your ego really gets in the way. It's like, oh God, but got to go through it. And yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that I go through it well, and get on the other side and accomplish a feeling of freedom, control and freedom in my voice, and that's better. But, I'm 68. A lot of habits have happened in basically 63 years. So, so I have to break old habits and create new ones. And
it's hard.
Really, it's hard to do.
But it's another great life lesson, right?
Yep.
I don't know how, Sarah Vaughan's voice changed a lot as she got older. Joni Mitchell's voice changed a lot as she got older.
Yeah, majorly.
But if you listen to Joni's like later CDs where her voice is much lower and she doesn't, her range was ridiculous when she was younger.
Totally unbelievable.
But it's still coming from that very deep place.
Yeah, yeah.
I read an interview with Erskine. I think he did one of her, I'm not sure what the CD's called, but they used the London Philharmonic.
Yeah, right.
Right. And he said after they did a song, he looked around and like everybody was crying, it's like, because Joni's singing was so deep.
Yeah.
And she didn't have the range that she used to have, none of that stuff. I'm like, okay.
Well, I mean, I remember hearing that project. So that was the Vince Mendoza project.
Yes. I love Vince Mendoza.
Oh, God.
I don't know him, but I love his arranging.
He's been on this show. But so when I first heard Both Sides Now and A Case of You,
yep,
absolutely lost it. It was like, because not only was her voice gorgeous, but those particular 2 songs were, probably 2 of my all-time favorites of hers.
Yes.
And they really meant something deep, both of them. Especially like Both Sides Now really was meaningful now too.
Yes.
And
she's coming at those lyrics from a different place in her life. Yeah. When she wrote it, she was what, 20 or 19 or something ridiculous? Like, how do you have that insight? But now as an older woman coming at it from a different place.
Yeah.
It means something different.
It's that thing we were talking about the truth, being able to communicate, be a channel for the truth, and how you affect people with that. It's really amazing.
That's really why I got into drumming, actually, because I heard, growing up, in my house, you had to take music lessons. No questions asked. You're taking music lessons.
Wow.
So I started by playing guitar when I was like 4 or something. My 2 brothers played guitar, and I hated it because it hurt my fingers. So, and then it was piano, and I liked piano a lot, and I felt like I had an ability to do it, and I liked my teacher a lot. And then my teacher moved away, and I was like, I don't want to have any other teachers. I loved that teacher. I'm done with piano. My mom tried to talk me out of it. And my mom said, I was probably like 8 years old or something.
Yeah.
And she goes, you're going to regret this decision for the rest of your life if you stop playing piano. And I was like, I don't care. I want to play drums. I want to play drums. I want to play drums. So I don't know why. That's what I wanted to do. And my mom was right, damn it. I always tell her, every time I see her, I'm like, you were right. Now I study piano again and I suck at it, but I wish I was better. Anyways, so I heard, when I heard Steve Gadd play, I was like, that's what I want to do. One record I was listening to, I'm like, holy shit, I just felt it so deeply. And that's what did it for me. Boom. You know?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay. And it wasn't that I knew what he was doing, it's like I felt it.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to do that to other people. I want to make them feel something. Now, I don't know if I've ever done that, but I try.
Hey, did you ever hear that? I think it was Buddy Rich said, if you have to tell a drummer how to play, then he's not the drummer for you. Did you ever hear that?
Like if an artist has to explain to a drummer what to, well, yeah, I mean, yes and no. I kind of like it if I'm recording with somebody and they give me an idea of what they want. Yeah. Especially if it's commercial stuff.
Well, I think he meant like fixing their playing,
Oh,
that kind of like, well, you're doing this, but I don't really like, that. Or
I think he's probably saying, if you're hiring Buddy Rich, then you're hiring Buddy Rich.
Yeah.
And don't try and tell him. I mean, he wouldn't listen to you anyway. Yeah, but I kind of agree with that. But in a way, it's like, I was having this discussion with Michael Barsamanto the other day, who's also been on your podcast, a good friend. And I was saying, man, I've only known a few people in my life who have really fought to be pure artists. Most of us have to make a living. So we have to do all kinds of stuff. And that means a lot of compromising. Yeah. And a lot of playing gigs that you would much rather not be doing, but you're there for a paycheck.
Exactly.
So if I'm doing something and I'm not being hired because I'm an artist, I'm me, and you're hiring me because you love the way Chris Blondal plays,
yeah,
then I have to kind of do what whoever's hiring me wants me to do. So, I agree with Buddy Rich. If you're hiring Jack DeJohnette, you're not going to tell Jack DeJohnette to, can you play more like Brad Melda or Jeff Ballard? Or can you play more like Philly Joe? That's not going to happen. Then you've got the wrong guy.
Right. I think that's what he was.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. You know what Buddy Rich said? I love this quote. He said, you have to have enough ego to get out of the way.
That's interesting. I never heard that before. You have to have enough ego to get out of the way. That makes sense because your ego is your self-worth, right?
Yeah.
So if you have enough self-worth, then that makes to just allow yourself to be who you are and not, one of the biggest challenges for me and probably a lot of people is if I'm playing in a situation like a big theater, and there's 5,000 people out there, I have zero nerves. Zero nerves.
Yeah.
If it's my band and it's a room full of friends and musicians, I'm really nervous.
Yep.
And it's hard to okay, I just need to let this be what it is.
Yeah.
And so again, if you've got enough self-worth, enough ego, then you can step aside and just let it be what it is. I love that. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bill Marcus is saying hello.
Hey, Bill. Long time no talk.
Hiya, Bill. Yeah, so let's play something.
Okay. You want me to do something off my CD?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell us about the CD.
Well, this is my first CD that I wrote all the music, except there's one cover of a David Bowie song that I love. I love David Bowie. And so I just did this arrangement of a David Bowie song, but all the other tunes I composed. And speaking of my mom, who said I'll regret, this decision, I always, as a drummer, I remember I was like maybe 10, I don't know, I guess, was I 15 or 16? Maybe I was driving. I used to go do these summer band camp things because I just wanted to get better, right? So I would enroll in these summer band camp, jazz camps, and they're always good. But I was kind of like, I was a knucklehead kid and I just wanted to be a drummer. And so these camps, you'd have to go and study harmony. That was one of the classes. And in my mind, my 15, 16-year-old mind, I'm like, screw that. I want to play drums. What has this got to do with me? I'm like an idiot. And I wish that I took it more seriously back then. And years and years and years of kind of dipping my toe in and then coming back out, dipping my toe in, coming back out. So then finally I decided that's it. I got to start studying piano and harmony and all this stuff because I really want to write my own music and have my own band. And so I dug in, and that's what I did I'm still doing it. And so I wrote all these tunes and I made a CD. So, yeah.
Cool.
So anyways, I was very nervous about doing it because I had all these amazing musicians on it. Vardan Ovsepian's on piano.
Wait, I know that CD. You did that a number of years ago, right?
Yeah, probably like 5 years ago or something.
You had a CD release party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that period of time, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done one since.
Okay. So you had Vardan,
Brad, Edwin Livingston, and let's see, I think Nick Mancini played on one thing, just a sort of a loopy thing.
Cool.
Yeah. And this drummer that was on it, he was this weird guy. But it went better than I thought. So I'm happy with it and I'm pretty proud of it. So let's see, what should we do? We'll do the title track here.
Okay. Which is?
It's called Emergency.
Okay.
Or Emergence, sorry. I don't even know the names of my own songs. Emergence. And I kind of came up with this title because there's a part in it where it's almost to me it sounds like the sun emerging after maybe a long cold night or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so here it goes, and I'm going to take an opportunity to maybe take a bathroom break while this is playing.
Okay.
Okay, tell me if you can hear this. Oops, start at the beginning. You can hear that?
Yep.
Okay. There we go. Hey, I'm back.
He's
Were you
back.
getting a lot of white noise? There suddenly was a bunch of white noise on my side.
I wasn't.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I didn't want to keep it going for too long. You know what? If people want to hear the rest, they can buy my CD.
It's so true.
I still have quite a few.
Really? I don't know
They're
what you're
available.
talking about. Oh, every time I do a CD, my husband's like, "Oh God."
Where are we going to put them?
I have finally let go of the Jewish girl desire to spend less per CD for 1,000.
Yeah, and it's not much more, so that's how they convince you. And then you get this delivery of like a mountain of CDs, and like, oh my God, how am I going to sell
Now,
these?
like friggin' cars don't even have CD players. I don't
I
even
know.
get it. I don't get it. I don't get why they even did that. Why bother? No, like you could still put in, you know, what do you call it?
Oh, USB.
Yeah, you could still put that in or whatever. You could still do all the rest, but why do you have to get rid of the CD players? God.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's everything's who knows. They got to make things the most modern and you know, constant upgrades. Who was I just talking to? My wife just got a newish car. Her old car died, and she's like, we went and test drove an electric car, which are amazing, but she's like, I feel like I'm driving a computer, which it basically is. It's like I just want an old school car. I just want a car. Don't they make them anymore? I'm all for you know, trying to save the planet, and we should all be trying to, be as what's the word? Good stewards and stuff, and try to use less fossil fuel. But maybe it's better to get a used car that's already been built than to buy a brand new. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But they're pretty cool, man. I gotta say, the electric cars are amazing. Have you been in one?
Yes, and also my friend has a Tesla. He's here
Oh my
actually.
God. Yeah, I have a friend that has one too.
Yeah, he's in love with his Tesla.
Yeah,
His
they're amazing.
girlfriend.
I would buy one if I could afford it. They're expensive.
Yeah, they are amazing. But yeah, I mean, I would have driven my mother's old Toyota Camry forever, but somebody rear-ended me on the freeway and I had to, they wouldn't they wouldn't give me money to repair it. So
Oh yeah, they wrote it off for you.
yeah.
Yeah, I just talked to a guy the other day. He's a great drum tech in town,
Uh-huh.
and he's telling me he's like, "Man, I'm really busy." I'm like, "Oh, that's good." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm fixing up my old car." He had like I think a Honda Civic, oh no, it wasn't a Honda Civic. I forget what it was now, but it's like an old like 83, whatever it is, and I'm tearing the engine out and I'm rebuilding the whole thing. I'm like, dude, why don't you, get a different car? He's like, no, these things are classics and I can't find parts anywhere.
It's interesting. Yeah, I have a friend in Japan who fixes motorcycles. It's the same thing with motorcycles. They've gone away from, they've gone into computer,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's challenging finding parts for the older models.
Yeah, I don't understand personally because I guess you and I share this. I'm very fond of older music as well,
Yeah.
especially older jazz and classical music. And I don't understand this, even though I play modern jazz, this constant drive of needing to upgrade and getting the latest, greatest thing all the time
Yeah.
does not attract me at all.
I know. Also, it's really annoying, actually.
It is,
You
especially
know,
when you got your computer set up. I got this working. I got my little
yeah,
studio going on here, and then there's upgrades, and suddenly nothing works anymore, and you got to go spend $4,000 on a new computer.
yeah. That is
It's
annoying.
yeah, yes.
I've been there several times.
So have I.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, just the other, as long as we're, talking about what's annoying
Complaining, as long as we're complaining.
technology, it's just the other thing that is really annoying to me is that you here's something really great. So you go, okay, that's really cool. I think I could, I think I'd like that.
Mhm.
And you buy it, and then if something is needs setting up or it needs fixing,
Mhm.
there's nobody there to actually fix it. It's
Oh
you
my
have to
God.
do it. And it's like,
Yes.
I didn't create this. I don't
Yeah.
know how to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I could study about it, but really,
Hmm.
isn't there anyone there who can actually fix it or,
Yeah. Help, help. Well, that relates to music too, because, now we all have to not only be musicians and be great musicians, but we also have to be publicists. And we
Yeah,
have to be, know how to be an engineer to record ourselves.
yep,
Recording drums is not easy. I've just been at it for years trying to get
really.
the right sounds. It's not easy. You really have to. I used to get really down on myself, like, what is going on? Why can't I get good sounds in my studio? And then I thought, well, the guys who are really good at it have been doing it as long as I've been playing drums. And I go into a great studio and they set up the mics. It takes them 2 seconds. I listen back and I'm like, how do you do that? It takes me hours, you know?
Yeah,
So I stopped getting down on myself about that. It's like, well, I'm not an engineer. I do the best I can,
yeah.
and I can only do so much. I'm envious of the people who, a guy like Dave Weckl seems like, I don't know, he must have a lot of help too, but,
Yeah,
you know,
maybe.
his home studio sounds incredible.
Uh-huh.
Or I don't know, and a lot of guys, I don't know whether they, hey, get my engineer friend over to set all this up and do everything for me, but all I got to do is hit play and record, and I'm never touching anything ever again. But I don't have that luxury. I had to, try and figure it all out myself, and endless hours of watching YouTube videos about mic placements and, you know, outboard gear and the right way to compress things. And oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I recently got Logic because I want to do certain things, with my upcoming CDs, and I want to spend more time at home experimenting than in the studio, And I did use GarageBand, and that was kind of simple. And then I realized once I started looking at Logic videos, I really only want to do I really only want to do this right now. I don't want to do this right now. So I don't have to learn everything. I can just do what I'm doing with
Yeah,
Logic,
that's what I do too. I mean, I use Logic as well, and I probably know how to use, you know, 30% of everything you can do on there. If
Yeah,
that, maybe I'm being generous to myself. I don't know.
right.
I would like to take a class. I'd like to go take an actual
Yeah,
class on learning how to be an engineer, because it's another skill.
yeah,
Jimmy Brantley's really good at it. He's very good at it. He's
yeah.
an amazing drummer, and he's a great engineer too. And he's a great bass player.
I don't think I knew that.
Darn you, Jimmy.
He's his drumming is pretty special.
It is. He's one of my favorite drummers in town. Definitely. Not even in town, just one of my favorite drummers. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he
His
really,
his his touch and his sense of time
yeah, yeah,
is it's incredible.
yeah, he's really good. One night he played, I wonder if it was with Aunt Maro, but I used to book that place downtown, right, for about
Hmm.
2 years. And there was one night, they were in there, and so I could really watch him all night in a real kind of nice quiet situation. And his
Yeah.
sensitivity actually blew me away because usually, excuse me, a guy who's capable of all his
Yeah.
technique
Yeah.
may not be that sensitive.
No, no, he's very sensitive. I'll
Yeah.
tell you a quick story while you're drinking some water.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to play at this place called Mambo's all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I always found that room really difficult to play in because there's a big window behind you. They do shut the curtains, but there's like, it's a tile floor.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for me to play in there because I had to play so quiet. And it's hard to feel like I can express myself and stay that loose and relaxed when I'm playing that quiet, which is
Yeah.
something I've worked on a lot over the years, probably because of Mambos, actually. And then I went to go see Jimmy there, and he just seemed like, just another day. And he's playing Whisper Soft, and he just seems like, oh my God, you know, that's incredible. And we
Huh.
talked about it. And he's like, yeah, it's a hard room to play in, but he didn't. From what I was hearing and seeing, he looked like he had no problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And that's an example of how something challenging or maybe not your favorite gig to play actually is a great tool for teaching you.
I've had a lot of those. Another conversation I had with Michael Barsamonto the other day, one of my favorite guys to hang out with.
Mhm.
Um, I was telling him that two things. Um, one, I used to do this casuals band on a regular basis, and did a lot of weddings and bar mitzvahs and whatever. And I started out by playing percussion, and there was another drum set player. That's how I got in because nobody would hire me as a drum set player because everybody had their guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started on percussion, and the poor drummer. I mean, this band leader, number one, off the stage, a cool dude. On the stage, a tyrant. He would turn around and, yell at people and give you, glares like you just killed his puppy or something and just like horrible. And what he would do is he'd have a little metronome
Oh no.
and it would blink,
Oh my
right? And he'd set it in front of you.
Hi.
And you've got, and the drummer who his gig it was, he was just like, screw that. Screw that. I'm not, I'll start the song that way, but I'm not going to sit there and watch that stupid light. This is a band with two keyboard players, a bass player, two guitar players, a horn section, three singers all playing tambourine and, out of time. And, a lot of people on stage, two percussionists
Wow.
sometimes. And this guy's supposed to stay right on time. Nobody else sees the light. It's just the
Yeah.
drummer.
Yeah.
Go to the light. So his attitude was like, screw that, you know. So he did not stay as the drummer. I don't know whether it was because he didn't want to keep doing it or the leader decided to move on. So I became the drummer.
Wow.
And then he never yelled at me or did anything of that stuff.
Hmm.
But he would stick the metronome in front of me because he's really sensitive about tempos. And if you're off a little bit, this guy knows. He knows his tempos. So it used to really bother me too. And I was like, at the beginning, I was like, okay, screw this. And I'll just get close, But
Yeah.
then I started thinking, you know what? I'm going to use this as a challenge.
Uh,
I'm going to learn from this. So then it became, because every once in a while you turn around and you'd be like, come on, you're slowing down or whatever, you're speeding up, and I'd look at the metronome, I'm like, no, I'm not. So then my strategy became, I'm going to stick right with that fucking light. If he ever turns around to me, I'm going to point at that light. I'm going to be right on it. That was my challenge. So what I learned from doing this, two things, was how much power the drummer has in a band, even a band of that size. If I didn't budge, if I stayed right on that light, everybody, because a band has they gravitate one way or another way. Sax players tend to lean back, trumpet players tend to lean forward. And, so I realized if I didn't budge, everybody gathers around me and how much power the drummer has because I'm the person who has the most subdivisions. And I may not even be the loudest person, but I have the most subdivisions and the most attack in the band.
yeah.
And I thought, Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize this before. I'm kind of a person who, when I'm on stage, I'm not insisting on this is where things are. I try to listen as much as I can. But sometimes I need to be the icebreaker and say, follow me, guys, here we go.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned how to do that. And the second thing I learned was, you know, if anybody ever does that, puts a metronome in front of you or whatever, complains about your time, if I'm right on, he can't say shit to me. So every once in a while, you turn around and he'd be like, come on, come on. And I'd point at the metronome and he'd go, oh, okay. And then he would take the metronome away and turn it off.
Oh.
Not funny.
Talking about time, I remember I went to the old Catalinas and I saw Kenny Kirkland
Mm-hmm.
and Dave Carpenter. I don't know if you knew Dave Carpenter, the
A
bass
little
player,
bit, yeah.
and Jeff Tane Watts.
Oh, great
Okay,
band.
so that band, I was sitting at the bar and listening,
What a
and
band, man.
yeah, and I was confused. At the time seemed really there was something weird about the feel and the time.
Mm,
Then I started to get it. Dave, the bass player, was right down the middle
mm-hmm,
on time, and
mm-hmm,
Kenny was laid back,
mm-hmm,
and Jeff was
mm-hmm.
forward.
On top, yeah.
Yeah, and and it was the bass player who was holding the time.
Yeah.
I mean, they all had good time, but
Mm-hmm.
he was
Yes.
emphasizing the quarter note,
Yes.
and that really blew my mind. And I started understanding that, really many times, not all the time, but many times it's the bass player who's emphasizing the time, the solid part of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm playing with a really great bass player, it frees me up a lot
Yeah.
because I know it's there and it's rock solid. So I can leave more space,
Hmm.
or I can get busier, or I can play a little bit more abstractly. And I know it's always going to be there.
Yeah. I know
So,
it was kind of an introduction to John Leftwich, but I know you guys have been working together too.
yeah, yeah. Boy, I had such a great night playing with John. I enjoy his time playing so much. To me, when I play with John, it's like I can kind of, he's like, how do I describe it? He's like a cloud that I can dance up on top of. Like I'm kind of, I don't know how to describe it really.
Hmm.
It's like this thing that's always there and I can kind of, play around on top a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just had such a great time playing with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Do you
really
use him a lot?
Yeah, and he also we've been friends for many years, so
Hmm.
we've done a lot of different things together. And he has a studio in his home, so I've done a few different projects with him, and
He's a good engineer, right? I think he's a good engineer.
great engineer. And
Yeah.
one of the last projects I did, straight ahead to the UK, it was kind of a weird project because I had recorded it in England, and then but the engineer there did some funny things, and it was left on the shelf, and then we got it out, and I brought it to John, and we doctored it up. We brought in a few other players to kind of take the place of some of the bad recording by the engineer
Hmm.
of the musicians, and then in the mix, I mean, it's really one of my favorite projects because of what he did with it. His mixing
Hmm.
was so tasteful, really
Hmm.
deep and tasteful.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah. Yeah, I got him on this little church gig that I do, and he's been so great because
Oh, cool.
he's got such a deep knowledge, and he's been super helpful, and it's been good having him there. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's done so much. And it's funny because he has no website. He's not on Facebook, but he's been the MD for a whole bunch of very impressive people, and he's done amazing things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The weird thing is, I'm MD on this church gig. I feel weird about But whatever, it is what it is. Speaking of that gig, so I've been doing this church gig in Eagle Rock, and it was before the pandemic. I think was it Sundays? I can't remember. I think it was Sundays, but it's now become Saturdays. But it's also become the first and third Saturdays are like a regular church service, whatever, and it's a great band always, and it's fun to do. And the priest is a real cool dude. Um, but he wants to do every second and fourth. He wants me to curate it as being more like a listening room. So this just like a couple of days ago it just came up of like this is what I want to do.
Wow.
So I'm gonna start, booking bands, and
Is this
I
the
was telling
evening or day?
it'll be like probably Saturdays from 7 till around 8:30, I think.
That's so
And
cool.
yeah, I'm excited about it. And I was telling him we were trying to figure out what he wants to do or what we want to do, and he was saying that he wants to create a creative community around this in Eagle Rock. It's in Eagle Rock,
Yeah.
and I was telling him, well, the blue whale's gone, and there's really like not that many places, listening rooms where serious musicians, artists, poets, whatever, can go and invite people down and have people listening.
Yeah.
As happy as I am to be doing my Sunday jam session, let's face it, a lot of the attraction to places are the alcohol and the food.
Yeah.
So they're happy to have a band, and I love playing there. I'm so happy for that gig. But most of the time, people are talking and stuff, and some people come just to hear us, and which is amazing. It's becoming more of that. But there's hardly any place in town. Los Angeles, one of the biggest cities in the world, the entertainment capital of the world, where you can go and just sit down and seriously and listen to a great band and have an experience like that, and not and have the music be the focus.
Yeah. Well, especially now, I mean, because we lost the blue whale, for instance,
Yeah.
and but there is Sam First
Yep.
and Just Jazz. Have you been to
Oh,
the series?
no,
Oh, you have to
I
go
don't
to
know
the
about that.
series. It's really great. It's used to be every Wednesday, and then it was quiet through the pandemic, and now it's actually expanding
Mm.
days of the week. But Leroy Downs,
Mm-hmm.
he's a really tasteful jazz DJ.
Mm.
Um, and he started this series at at uh, Mr. Music Head, which is a photo gallery, kind of catty corner from Guitar Center on Sunset
Oh, it's out there. Okay.
or Hollywood. I can't remember. I think it's whichever, Sunset or Hollywood, and it's great. The room holds maybe 40 or 50 people, and the sound is great. They have an acoustic piano
Oh, good.
sound, and
Mm-hmm.
it's in a photo gallery, and it's also the photos are about music or
Mm-hmm.
by musicians, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really a cool situation. Very
Well,
nice.
that's another thing that the priest who runs this place wants to get going is he wants to tap into the arts community. So in Highland Park, there's an art walk, and if anybody's listening who's got some clout at the art walk, that's on Saturday nights, and that's why he wants to do this, because he wants to be a part of it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and he wants to get artists to hang their work in the church and stuff, and he wants it to be like he's got an arts preschool there during the day.
I love this guy already.
Me too. Are you
I
kidding
want to
me?
meet him. He's great.
Well, you book a night. The deal is going to be, musicians are going to get the door. And it's like any other club, I suppose, and it's a church, so he's not
Yeah.
depending on bars or alcohol sales to make money. So it's more of like he's giving of the space to the arts.
Is there a piano?
Not yet. He's talking about renting one.
Okay.
There is an organ, a pipe organ.
Wonder if Carrie Frank plays a pipe
I
organ.
haven't talked to him about it yet, but I thought about it.
But he'll bring his B3 anyway.
I haven't really told anybody about it yet because this is kind of brand new. So I wanted to
Hey,
talk
we'll
about it.
expect a lot of emails.
Well, if anybody wants, you can find me, DM me on Facebook or email me or whatever.
I want a
Um,
gig.
okay.
That
Yeah,
sounds,
there's only let's see, every second and fourth Saturdays. So it's gonna fill up fast. And he said, if it gets ridiculous, like if we're booked out, 8 months in advance, then we might open up another day or something.
yeah.
So
But I just love what you're saying about his ideas. It's just he's sounds extremely cool.
he's very cool. Not only does he want to do this, but I think it's Wednesdays, he hands out literally tons of fresh produce and vegetables.
Wow.
Like he's got this whole thing going with farmers. And I think if you're a religious based farmer, there's these things where like they want to give a certain percentage of their yield to charity. So he's tapped into that. So
Wow.
every Wednesday he hands out tons of fresh produce to, people who need it. I'm like, this guy is my freaking hero. I don't know how he does it all.
Yeah. Has he been there a long time at that church?
He's been in Hollywood for a long time,
Uh-huh.
and that's where John and I play. And Michael Barsamanto plays out there opposite Sundays that I do.
Hmm.
And then he's in Eagle Rock, and the church that he's in there now was dilapidated for a long time. And so he's trying to resurrect it and make it sort of a cool space. He's sort of like he's a social justice hero. He's been, when they were locking kids up in cages and stuff, he was downtown protesting, getting arrested. And I'm
Oh,
like, man, I like this guy.
he sounds very cool.
He's great.
Wow. I look forward to seeing and experiencing some of it. Brad Rebuchin wants a gig.
He's got one already.
Brad, you already have a gig. Come on, man.
I think he's November 13th or something with his horn band. He's the only one I've told about it so far.
Yeah, I have
Oh, you
some.
know who else is doing it? Is Pierre Chambers, because Pierre's kind of hooked up with the whole
That's so interesting.
scene, and
Well,
Pierre's going to be the first one on the first the 23rd of October.
oh, it's actually a date. See, he didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny?
I'm not looking at my calendar, so forgive me.
Okay,
Let me open up
that's
my calendar.
fine. Okay, so I'm actually producing Pierre's first album.
I know you are. Yeah, the 23rd.
Okay. And he just told me like last night or the night before that his church was going to create a fundraiser for him in which
Yeah.
play. And I said, oh, you should have the band that's on your record. He said, oh no, I have a band that the guy has created. And then he told me who, and I was like, oh, it's a great band, yeah, great. And so that's interesting that it's the same church because he mentioned that the pastor, is that what
Yeah. I don't know if he's a pastor or priest. I just call him
yeah,
Jamie.
yeah, that
Is
Jamie,
there a difference between a pastor and a priest? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I'm Jewish.
Well, I'm nothing, so I didn't grow up in the church, but I'm down with, this whole thing is great.
And Rebuchin is November 13th.
Is that what he said?
That's what he said.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna get a gig from you after our conversation here.
It's gonna cost you. No, I'm kidding.
I'm sure it will.
No.
There is a band that I would love to do again. I don't know if I can afford to bring the band in, but John Leftwich and I created a tiny chamber orchestra,
Mm.
and we brought it into Just Jazz, that series, and mostly material that I had picked, some Schofield tunes,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote some lyrics. I think there was a Monk tune and a few of my originals and one of John's beautiful arrangement of Smile. And it was so much fun. I mean, and we wanted, we were idealizing to record it because it was really a unique sound. It was Brad Dutz on percussion
I love
and
Brad.
yeah, Gary Fukushima
Mm-hmm.
and Dan,
What?
who was the guitar player. Oh gosh, I forget his name. And then there was Ted Falcon on violin. There was a cellist. There was Bob Shepard and Alex
Well,
Budman.
sounds like a perfect thing for this space. There's
Yeah,
no
it was,
piano there though, so you'd have to have a keyboard player.
which like Gary Fukushima's great with it,
Yeah.
you know.
So that's what we were talking about, having like chamber groups. You could even do like, string quartets
Yeah,
or, Pierre's talking about, doing some obviously singing some jazz and then bringing his poetry in too.
he's a great poet, actually.
Yeah, I love Pierre. He's so
I
cool.
do too. Such a cool guy. Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And then you still do your Sunday gigs, right?
Yeah. Sundays turned out to be kind of a marathon, but I'm really happy about it.
Oh, because you do something in the morning. You do the church gig in the
I
morning.
do, yeah. Every other Sunday, I do two church gigs in Hollywood, and then I come home and I teach, and then I shove food in my mouth, and I
Oh
go
my
to
God.
Michael's on Riverside. Yeah.
So Michael's on Riverside was the old Alphonse's, if anyone was here for that. And then it's just a few doors down from Patty's.
Yeah.
And it's kind of outside. It's covered. It's a
It's a
covered
covered
patio.
patio. It's pretty covered. It's not like, not, it's more like I mean, they can open up the center, which is really nice.
Oh,
The whole center thing opens up. But, there's definitely a breeze that comes through.
yeah. But it's so
Uh,
cool. It's modern music and modern jazz and Brad Rebuchin and Evan,
Evren,
Everin.
Evren Edler, and usually Amir Ishlay plays keyboards.
Great piano.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really
yeah.
enjoyed him.
And the cool thing about him and Evren, well, all of them, is they're all good composers too. So we get to play
Yeah.
original stuff there. How many gigs do you do where you get to play original songs that are, really cool and happening? I'm
Yeah.
so happy to be doing that gig.
It's a really nice gig.
Yeah,
It's very reminiscent of, for me, I mean, the experience of the Blue Whale musically, it's like music by great musicians and it's great music. And yeah, it's great. Really sounds great. I love it.
yeah. I feel very fortunate, especially now, because so many people aren't gigging still.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel very, very lucky.
Speaking of gigging, I'll just mention that Saturday night, if anybody's in LA, I'm doing the conference room again, and that's basically what happens 6:30 to 9:30 is that I take a set. Chris has played it with me, and then I do a jam session, and people are coming out to jam,
Yeah,
musicians and singers. It's really nice. It's outdoors. It's beautiful. The food is amazing, and the vibe is really cool. And it's Leftwich. This week, Auron has been playing it for since the
mm,
Auron Serfati
I love
and
Aron too.
David Amra, David Arnay on the piano. Who's
David's
really
great.
fun to play with again after many years. Um, I had seen him play with Benny Maupin, and I was intrigued because when David and I played together early on, we were probably doing a lot of casuals, and kind of straighter gigs. So to experience Dave in this moment in time, it's really great.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dan. Dan just posted one of my cuts from Just Jazz. It's very nice, very, very pretty. But he also posted a few of your quartet. Um, TW, what is that?
that's a song that I wrote.
Oh, okay. And do you want to watch it?
Sure. I don't know if it's the whole thing, but probably it's my dedication to Tony Williams, even though I'm not playing like Tony Williams. But yeah, this is just an excerpt.
Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's short. There's Vardan of Sepian. It's great. Very nice. Um,
And Brad sounds so good. All those guys sound amazing on that.
yeah, Brad and Jeff Richmond
Mhm.
are probably some of my favorite players in town. Oh, I guess Adam, what's his name? Adam, what's his name? Adam Levy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's so, but the three of them, you know, I love guitar. I mean, I've loved guitar forever. And
Mhm.
so I like a lot of different styles and, of course, the Larry Kuntz. But this
Mhm.
particular style that Brad does, and I would say Jeff and Brad, maybe Adam, are kind of, for me, the leaders in this particular kind of style.
I've learned so much from playing with Brad over the years. Um, we played together for God, I don't even know how long now, but he's kind of been a big part of my development, I would say. So if you're listening, Brad, thank you. And he's been so generous with his time and his energy, and
Yeah,
he's just such a cool dude.
yeah,
We even I booked like a after the CD came out, I booked like a little West Coast tour,
yeah.
and we jumped on a plane and flew up to Seattle and did the whole thing up there and up to Vancouver where I'm from and played a show up there, which was great because it was kind of like this really nice jazz room and it was sold out and a lot of folks were into it. And we just kind of picked up some bass player friends along the way. And Brad's down. He's such a cool dude. He's always there and he plays his ass off. So I can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah.
And he brings eggs to the gigs all the time. He's got chickens.
Wow. Now Brad, I haven't seen that, but I haven't done all that many gigs with him, so maybe I'll have to start doing that so I can have eggs too.
Yeah, I don't know if the chickens are laying right now because it's cold, but
Oh,
when they're going, he'll bring eggs to the gig, which is
that's
nice.
funny. Oh, and Jeff Miley. Sorry, Jeff. I added him in that category too. He's really an
I don't know if I know the name, but I don't know if we've ever met.
his solos are amazing.
Mm.
He's along those same kind of lines. Um, and by the way, it was oh, come on. The guitar player in that small uh or little orchestra. Oh God.
And you
Oh,
haven't.
Tom
That's okay. You know what? If you don't think about it, it'll come to you.
Tom Rizzo.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Oh, and Brad's blushing.
Oh, Brad's blushing. Well, don't blush too much. I'll be yelling at him on Sunday. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Uh,
No,
so
he's a very giving guy, and actually, I've learned a lot from him, which I've already said. But also, like, I was talking to him the other night, I don't know if I should say this.
Uh-oh.
That's no big deal. Um, when I was a kid growing up and going to jam sessions and stuff, and I didn't have much confidence in myself, and I would get up and play, and half the time I would think that I was terrible, and I'd walk away feeling like shit. And so I grew up in a small town outside of Vancouver, Canada, and there was no R&B music on the radio, so I didn't grow up with that stuff. So my musical background was my brother's a musician, still is an orchestrator, and he got me into jazz, like Chick Corea and some fusion stuff. So I got way into that, and that was my idea as a kid growing up of like, here's how you play a groove. I wasn't listening to Motown and Stax Records recordings and all that stuff. So when I moved to Los Angeles, I didn't know any of that material. And I'd go to these jam sessions and everybody would call R&B songs and I didn't know any of them. So I'd always feel a little foolish, like, Jesus, man. And this is way before YouTube. How do you learn this stuff unless you grew up with it? How do you know which records to buy, even?
Yeah.
So I always felt like I was playing catch up a lot. I'd ask people, just go get some stuff that Jeff Porcaro's on or whatever. And so I would do that, but it wasn't the same songs, wasn't the same material, and totally different. So it took me years, but I would go and play and and I didn't have the confidence to go up to somebody and say, hey, what do I need to listen to? What do I was young. I moved here when I was 19.
Oh, wow.
And so when people come down and sit in at the Riverside, I'm like, man, I could really help this person, I think. But should I say something? I don't know if I should say anything, and it might be offensive, and they might take it the wrong way. And I would never say anything. And I was talking to Brad about it. He's like, I think you should probably say something. So I finally did, and I just said, look, I may not know what I'm talking about, but this is what I'm hearing, and I think this what I'm going to tell you could really help. And the guy was like, man, thank you. I was like, oh, that felt good. Fine. I'm on the other side. Because I remember, in Los Angeles, when I first moved here, there was so many gigs. Every bar, every restaurant, the session musicians were working like crazy.
Yeah.
And there was a pecking order and a hierarchy. And the scene here was, I don't know if it's just me, maybe you can corroborate this.
Uh-huh.
But you go to a club with a lot of well-known guys, and it's kind of like, what can you do for me, a little bit. And I think it's changed a lot. I remember there's a few guys when I moved to town. Joe Porcaro was always super nice to me. And I just thought, man, that's what I'm going to be like when I get older. I'm going to be like Joe Porcaro or Joe LaBarbera.
Yeah.
Joe LaBarbera has always been so nice to me.
Yeah.
And Joe changed my life, actually.
Really?
Joe told me one thing that changed my life.
Wow.
And I tell him every time I see him. And I was over at his house, and we're trading fours. He's got 2 drum sets set up, and he just looks at me and goes, use more arm. Use your arm a little bit more. I was like, really? Huh, interesting. Okay. Changed my life. Just that little thing. I'm like, God, thank you, Joe. Jesus, just that one little thing. Anyways, so I wanted to, Brad kind of encouraged me. I think you should say something. So I did, and it felt good. I was like, man, I helped somebody. They didn't ask for it, and maybe they didn't even know they should ask for it, or I don't know, or didn't feel confident. I don't know. Or thought, well, what does Chris know? Yeah, Chris doesn't know anything.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Does that happen to you? Do you hear people at your jams and you're like,
oh yeah.
I
Oh
wish
my
I could
God.
say something to that person to, do you say
Yes.
things or do you not say things?
Well, it kind of depends on who it is, what the situation is. Um, like the first jam that I had at the Sportsman's Lodge was 7 years, and that was actually the best session I ever ran. And,
I went down there a couple of times.
yeah, like there was no stage. You could just come up to where the band was. And I had kind of this open policy that if I saw you coming in and let's say you're a horn player and I'd say, "Oh, you know the song? Come on up." Just,
Hmm.
it was it was cool. But then actually, there were some people that I actually would tell, it was a little more negative. I didn't say you're fucked up or anything, but like I remember this one guy, he played the flute and he was kind of brainless, and he would play like cheek to cheek, for instance, and he wouldn't play he'd play up through one or two of the bridges and then not finish the song. And then he'd like have this attitude like,
I'm the shit.
yeah,
Hey, check me out, man.
yeah. And I went over to him and I said, there's more to that song.
Right.
And he said, oh, and then
That's
so I,
it? Well, okay.
yeah. And so I said, well, why don't you play songs that you know fully,
Hmm.
and, we'll call the song that you know. And he said, oh, I don't need to do that. And
Hmm.
I said, yes, you do.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, because it was like, don't come to the jam and, I hate to use this word here, but masturbate. It's
Yeah.
just, it's no, come, you don't have to be perfect, but come to share something,
Hmm.
and to do something as well as you can. Why not? I mean, this is your reach out into
Well,
the community.
I'm telling you, like, is that somebody, speaking of egos, is that an ego thing, or is that somebody who maybe feels um, uh, a lack of confidence, so they're going to bolster themselves up, and if you say anything to them, they're going to resist and push back. I have students like that,
Yeah.
and we have serious conversations about it. Like, you're here because you want me to show you something. I'm trying to tell you something, and you're pushing back at me. What is up with that? And you need to get out of your own way. That expression again. Get out of your ego. I'm trying to help you, buddy.
Have you ever had somebody leave, because they can't confront that?
No, I've kicked people out,
Oh,
which rarely. I'm very tolerant, but
yeah.
I've asked people to leave.
Oh,
You know, yeah. So, but
cool.
that's I've been teaching for 25 years, and that's happened twice.
Oh, wow. I had a girl leave because I wasn't forcing her to do anything, but I was introducing improvisation to her to, just loosen up and have some fun. And wow, she really freaked out. She just said she felt pressured from me to
That's okay.
improvise, and she left. She didn't come back. And it was interesting because of course I wasn't pressuring her. I was just kind
Yeah,
of
but that's even okay
leading
to
her, you know.
pressure somebody a little bit. You don't want to like bully somebody, but I think pressuring somebody and putting them under maybe a little bit of a strenuous situation, that's a big learning lesson too. Because if you're going to go audition, you're going to feel pressure. If you want a gig and you're sitting in somewhere, you're going to feel some pressure. So maybe that's a good thing to get used to a little bit.
Yeah.
As a teacher, I had teachers that were just, oh my God, talk about talk about pressure.
Pressure.
It was ridiculous. And I would sweat going to the lesson. But I don't teach this way. I try to,
Yeah.
I use kindness to get
Me too.
people,
Yeah.
but but sometimes, a stick can help a little bit too, to put a little fear in somebody. Like, if you don't practice, I don't want to see you back here, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you're just wasting your time and my time. And
Yeah.
what are we doing here? And I don't do that with everybody. People who take it more seriously,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you're just wasting our time here. So what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teaching is really a great thing. It's we're as when we were talking about it earlier, it's just and music, playing music and teaching, it's kind of a blessing to have to learn life lessons through. It's just great.
100%. I mean, there's countless stories every day, as a matter of fact. I learned something new. I realized as a student who it dawned on me after years of teaching this guy that he doesn't respond so well if I'm like kind of guiding him. He wants to learn himself. So I'll kind of go, here's a little bit of information. And, I'll sit back and I'll just let him work it out. And if I, chime in and say, hey, we'll try this, try that, doesn't go well. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to sit back here and let you, and I'm going to tell you, and then he'll say, well, he'll go, well, why didn't you tell me that? I'm like, because I know you and I know you like to work things out on your own. If you weren't getting it, I would definitely tell you. But you're telling yourself the things that you need me to tell you. You already know it. So I don't, I'm just letting you work through it. Because he'll say, he'll be yelling at himself,
Yeah.
he's way better than I were. And my snare, what's going on? And then I'm like, that's what I would say, So just let you work it out. I'll be patient. I'll sit here and wait for you.
Do you have a practice routine, one practice routine, or do you vary?
Um, I have right here, show you. I have a little book. I keep a practice diary,
Oh,
and I'm usually pretty good about writing things down. But generally, what I do these days changes. But I know what I want to work on because I'm out in the world working, and I know what my weaknesses are. So I have this whole theory about focus on the holes in your game. For example, if I was a basketball player and I knew my free throws sucked, that's what I would focus on. So whenever I sit down, if let's say my last gig, I was like, you know what? I think that this aspect could have been better. That's what I that's what I focus on. I always go towards my weaknesses, which isn't always easy to do. And there's certain things that I've been trying to accomplish for years that I still work on all the time.
yeah.
I'm always working on my sound, trying to figure out how to get the sound out of the drums that I hear in my head.
Mm.
Um, facility, and I work a lot on playing over forms. I work a lot on, even just trading fours or vocabulary, and it changes. So, and I try to keep a log so that the next day I don't go back and I'm not just starting fresh, like, oh, I don't remember what I did yesterday. So I'll try
Yeah.
and pick it up and deal with it that way. But it's always evolving. How about you? Do you have like a regular
Well,
thing you do?
I always every day I have two teachers right now, actually, two technique teachers. So I'll do one day and then I'll do the last lesson. And there is as I said before, there's a spot in my voice that's been having trouble over the last few
Mm,
months. So I'm really aware of that. Also, I need to, I always said that like guitar players could sit in front of the TV and do scales and
physical stuff.
yeah, they could gain benefit from that. But as a
Yep.
singer, you can't do that. You really have to, if you're working on the instrument and getting it in tune, you really have to focus on all these inner happenings and sensations. And when you have a good teacher, that teacher can help you through that because the sensations can be confusing and you don't hear yourself the same way others hear you because you're hearing
Mm.
from inside your body.
Wow, that's interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And
So do
then
you have to kind of translate a little bit? Like, this is what I'm hearing, but this is not what's being projected. So I have to translate what I'm hearing into what I want to be projecting.
yes, well, okay, so the teacher is is valuable because if I'm doing a certain sound that's not good or good, then the teacher can actually say that's good or that's not good, and your closing or you're opening or you're wasting air or you're doing something. And then if I do the correct one, I may be so unfamiliar with that for whatever reason, but the teacher says that's good. So then I have to remember what the action is and what the sensation is. And again, breaking down, like we were talking about how things relate. There's a decision and an observation and an action and a result, and I have a few different ways of saying that, but that's all the things that have to happen to have a good sound. And then I have to forget about it
Yes.
and, be emotional about the song and musical and things like it helps if I, like you were saying, you hear a certain sound of the drums in your head. If I hear the notes in my head of what I'm going for, but it's this much ahead of the moment. It's like I have to be in the present moment and the future moment,
Interesting.
so I have to, if I hear what I'm going for and not pay attention to the mechanics, it actually comes out better.
Well, let me ask you this. Boy, so much came up when you said that. So there's different aspects of things. Oh, God, I have like 10 thoughts all of a sudden. One for drums, I've been kind of changing things up a little bit with my teaching thing. And in that, when I first started teaching years and years and years ago, in my mind, I thought, man, if I had a great technique teacher when I was like 12 years old, I'd be so much better. I'd be. So I really focused on that. And then I started to evolve and I thought, I don't care how good somebody's technique is, like we were talking at the beginning. If you can't groove your ass off, then who gives a shit about, how fast you can play or how many licks you have or
For drummers, right? Because the
yeah,
groove, God, yeah,
that's it. That's
yeah,
it. It
it
doesn't
is.
matter. But technique does go into that. If you don't
Yes,
have the right technique to have a touch on the instrument,
right.
then it's not going to groove. So how much time do you spend focusing on technique versus groove? So I've been kind of rebalancing that within myself and my teaching too.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And then the other thing is like speaking of trying to now I just had this conversation with Brad. Like there are people in this world who are just like the Aretha Franklins of the world, who just seem like
Yeah.
she was born with this amazing gift.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she had to work at it, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But come on, let's get real here.
Yeah.
There's the LeBron Jameses of the world, who and the Kobe Bryants, and then there's kind of everybody else. And those people are, far and few between.
Yeah.
Did you see that documentary about Aretha Franklin, by the way?
Yes.
Oh my God, I saw it in the theater.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I mean, I've always been a huge fan, but wow, everybody should see that documentary.
Yeah.
Anyways, so saying, talking to Brad, I'm like, I remember watching a thing about Wynton Marsalis, and they interviewed his high school band instructor. And they said, well, he said Wynton wasn't the best trumpet player in the high school band, but he would go and he'd practice in the corner for hours when the other kids were out playing. He'd practice, 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 practice. That's why he got so much better. And I'm a practicer, because I always feel like I want to get better. I keep wanting to get better, wanting to get better. And I was thinking, man, can we as normal human beings, maybe we got an aptitude towards what we do and we're good at it, we could even be great at it. Could we be as good as an Aretha Franklin who doesn't give a shit, who never practices, who just falls out of bed being amazing? Can we ever get to that versus an Aretha Franklin who practices her ass off? And what's going through Aretha Franklin's mind? Is she thinking about technique at all? Is she thinking about any of that stuff? Or is it just blah? Here it is. I don't think she's thinking about it too much. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think if anything, she is remembering the feeling of connection with source and 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 then she's connected and then that's it.
That's it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And guys like Buddy Rich, Elvin Jones, Philly Joe Jones. Philly practiced a lot. Um, you
Buddy Rich
know,
didn't read.
Buddy Rich couldn't read, but he grew up playing. And he said he never practiced, but I know he would sit
Yeah,
and
he
he'd
was
warm
fine.
up. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, but to me, Buddy Rich is sort of like Muhammad Ali, like just so fluid and flowing, and just nobody at the time could touch him for
Yeah,
that style.
yeah,
Um, so with us, mere mortals, we're trying to catch up to that.
yeah.
So, um, how much do we have to focus on the technique part versus, you know, I meditate because I want to be present and and I want to be in the moment when I'm playing. I
Yeah,
don't want to have shit going on in my head when
right.
I'm playing. I just want to be there. So I don't think Buddy Rich meditated a day in his life, or Elvin, or Tony Williams.
And we're all different and we all need different things and we have to realize along the way. The other last week I saw I don't know if you know the singer Cecile McLaurin Salvant.
Hmm.
So she's from the East Coast and her pianist Fortner Sullivan. It was at the Ford. It was a mind blowing thing to see. I mean, I've seen her before and I liked her, and but once again, you see these people. They have technique, but that's not really what it's about. It's about the joy of creating, of the music. They both of them, a match seriously made in heaven. I don't know. When they
Mm-hmm.
met, it was probably like fireworks.
The
They both
planets were
have
aligned.
yeah, they have the same repertoire. I mean, it's like classical and show music and jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's a large repertoire. And they're spontaneous together, and they kind of either know each other so well, which they probably do, but also it's a natural feel. You know, I'm going this way. Oh, me too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and then
They
to top
listen.
yeah, and then to top it off, there's no pretense.
Yeah.
Absolutely none. When
Yeah.
she sings the song and he plays it, they're joyfully creating 300%, and that's it. They're not
Mm-hmm.
putting on airs or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Love it.
quite an experience.
Do me a favor and text me her
Yeah.
name, and I want to check that out. Yeah, that's where we all want to be, right? That transcendent place.
Yep.
I have, a little bit of insight. I mentioned that Steve Gadd was my hero growing up. I got a chance to, one of my students, ex-student, his dad produced like Steve Gadd solo records.
Oh,
So he would go and hang at the Catalinas whenever Steve Gadd's band was playing, and he's like, "Hey man, you want to come?" I'm like, "Sure." Are you kidding me? I get to meet my hero and hang out with him. Are you kidding me? I was nervous, and I had never seen him play in a small club before, and it dawned on me. It was kind of an emotional thing. Like as soon as I heard him play, I'm like, "What's going on here?" There's something. He's not playing anything like fantastic.
yeah.
He's just it's like it moved me. I'm like, God, what is this? It's magic. So I talked to him for a little bit. I didn't ask him any of these questions, but I talked to his band. It's let's see who's in his band: Larry Goldings, Mike Landau, and Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
We're all hanging out, and I'm high because I was just listening to Steve Gadd, and I'm like feeling like really good. So I was talking to Larry Goldings. I'm like, what is it about Steve Gadd? Is it because I've had that sound in my head my whole life growing
Yeah.
up?
Right.
And he's like, we just had the exact same conversation, like the band.
Yeah.
And he said, to me, he goes, Steve never Never, when things get exciting, he doesn't speed up. He
Right.
stays centered like this the entire time. And he's like, even with me, I'm playing something and I'm starting to get a little excited and I can feel myself like, okay, Larry, calm down, relax, you know. Steve never does that. And I'm like, okay, you know, it's partly the sound, partly his creativity. And we try and figure these things out and, you know, take those lessons, you
Yeah.
know, and use them for ourselves. And I'm sure if you talk to Steve Gadd, he'd be like, "Oh, bullshit! I go through the same thing everybody else goes through. You know, I want it to sound like Elvin Jones, and I couldn't sound."
Yeah. Well, there are, I mean, you make me think of the drummers that I like. And um, there's all different reasons to like a drummer, all different genres of music. There used to be one drummer in town who was actually a rock drummer, and I did a jazz gig with him, and he had a real simple set, and he played really simply, but his time was so divine. It
Mm,
actually, I was totally floating away. Actually, Johnny Vodakovich, do you know him
yeah,
from New
I know that.
Orleans?
I know the name. I don't know if we've met.
He's another incredible in the moment drummer. I was doing a gig with him on the Mississippi Queen, which was, a paddle wheel
Mm,
boat down the Mississippi. And I got up. It was kind of a larger group and there was a leader, and I got up and I started singing, and I was so struck by his time that I kind of went like this and to the leader, and the leader said, "I know."
I'll tell you, there's something magic about it. There is something magic about it. It's such an underrated thing for drummers these days because it's all about, you know, chops and playing a million things in vocabulary. But boy, if you can just sit, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. Another Steve Gadd, because I used to love him, and I
Yeah.
everything that he did, I paid attention to. So there's when I was like, I don't know, 15 or 14 or something, there was like I think it was a Buddy Rich memorial thing or something, and they videotaped it.
Yeah.
And it was three drummers, Vinnie Colaiuta, Steve Gadd, and Dave Weckl. And they all played. Um, they all did solos, and then they all played with the band. So we've got Vinny, who's incredible. We've got Dave Weckl, who's also incredible. And then Steve Gadd comes out last, right?
Yeah.
And he just does this. He just starts going on the hi hat. And everybody in the whole place is like, oh my God. You know, the band starts grooving. It's just quarter notes on the hi hat, but it's just magic. I'm like, holy shit. And
It's
then
so amazing that drummers are
he
capable
plays
of that.
he plays this crescendo roll. And you know, Vinny's brilliant. Dave Weckel's brilliant. Tons of vocabulary for days.
Yeah.
Steve Gadd plays a crescendo roll, sort of Elvin Jonesian thing, and crashes on the cymbal, and the whole place freaks out. Like the simplest thing, but it's how he plays it. It's the delivery, the confidence, it's the placement, all that stuff. It's magic.
There's a drummer, I'm trying to remember his name. I haven't really used him, so his name goes out. He played with Larry Goldings, and Anthony Wilson at a like second home thing, that Sam First was doing in Hollywood, and he plays with like some pop people like James Taylor occasionally, or people like that. But he
Oh, Jay,
yeah, Jay
yeah, yeah.
Bella.
Bella Rose. I
Yeah,
don't know him, but I've seen him play with Larry.
small set, right?
Yeah.
Tiny little nothing set.
Yep.
And he's doing the same thing. He'll go
Yes.
blink, pop, and
Yep.
you're like, "Oh my God, it's like perfect. It's perfect what he's
Yep.
doing."
Yep.
Uh,
There's a thing on YouTube. Check it out with Larry playing. I think it's I found my thrills on Blueberry.
yes,
Have you
they
seen
did
that?
that. Well, they did that at the
Oh, they
concert.
did.
Oh my God.
What Jay's playing on there, I'm like, first off, I'd never have thought of playing that in a million years, but he does it so beautifully.
Yeah.
It kind of blew me away. I'm like, shit, wow.
And speaking of arms, I always also was a fan of Mark Ferber.
Mark's brilliant. He came down to the jam a couple of times, and I was like,
Yeah,
damn, this guy can play.
his arms.
Yeah, he uses a lot of arms. He's
Yeah.
tall and kind of lanky.
Yes,
And he's
but
got his own.
I asked him about that, and he actually did practice that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Joe told him because they're friends. I
That's
don't know.
right. More arms.
Yeah, more arms. Use arms.
Hey, it's
Time's up.
2 hours. It's actually a little over 2 hours, but wasn't this fun?
It was a lot of fun, and I was seriously, I was like, what am I going to talk about? I mean, I got nothing to, but my problem is I will blab. You know, if I'm talking to somebody
From
who's
a
not a
shy
big,
kid to a blabber.
I blab, that's for sure. I don't know if it all makes sense or
It all
hopefully
sounded,
somebody got something out of it.
it was pretty darn good, actually.
Oh, good. I'm happy to have done it. Let's do it again tomorrow. Huh.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Mark. Mark Van Aken is here. He said, great interview.
Oh, Mark.
I
Mark's
love Mark
great.
too.
Me too.
He's a wonderful.
That, are we still on air?
Yes,
Mark is the most positive person that I know.
he
I've
is
learned so much from Mark. Just like, just having he's busts me sometimes. Hi, Mark. I'll be talking to him and he's like, we'll be talking about the same thing and I'll be kind of down about something and he'll put a spin on it and he's like, come on, man, come on. I'm like, God damn it, Mark, you're right. What am I? I need to be more positive.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I love Mark. He and I have been friends a long time.
Yes.
He is great, and he's a beautiful drummer.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yes.
Um, I should just tell people that later tonight, this is unusual for me to do this, but 7 to 9, I'm going to be on again with a singer from Australia named Chris McNulty. She's a wonderful singer, and I just had to bend a little for the Australian thing because otherwise they have to get up at 3 in the morning to do this. So that's kind of silly.
Can I thank you for doing this and keeping
Yeah.
this going? I mean, Jesus, Cathy, you're such a speaking of positive, you've always got something going on. And during the pandemic, when we all needed something,
Yeah.
you started doing this. I'm like, man, that Cathy, she's amazing. So
Thank
thank you.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoy it. And you know what number you are?
Oh, 5,396.
337.
Oh, okay. I'm honored to be that high up on the list.
That's like my friend always says. He says, I had a girlfriend and I asked her, what number I was on her list. I was thinking, maybe 3 or 2. And she said 532.
Oh my God.
That's what he
Doesn't
said.
mean, yeah.
Oh.
Well, you're good at this. You put people at ease. It's nice. It was a good experience.
Thank you. And everybody brings out something different in me too, because of you, I talk about things with you that I may not have talked to with anybody else.
We didn't even get into our sleep habits or what we eat or health or anything, which is huge for musicians, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't even ask you, if you went to college or anything like that,
Yeah. Well, good, because I didn't. I never had anybody show me drum set stuff, except when I was a little kid.
Huh.
I had technique lessons, and the rest is just kind of me, learning and listening and stuff. I started working right out of high school, so I never went to, I was going to go to school. I wanted to go to school. I know we're over, but my brother went to Dick Grove, and I came to visit my brother, and I wanted to go there too. And I sat in on for like 2 weeks. I sat in on some percussion classes and stuff, and it was all stuff that I was already doing in high school. I studied with like the percussionist for the like the Vancouver Symphony, the like #1 studio guy in Vancouver, stuff that I already knew. So I'm like, why am I going to go here? That was my attitude at the time.
Yeah.
Stupid attitude. I should have gone.
Well, but the paths we choose are, what seems right at the time, and it makes us who we are, and no sense in
No, it's true.
looking backwards.
That's right.
No,
Move forward. I can still go. I'll be 80 by the time I graduate.
true, you still can. I always think of that too, because I went to Berkeley when I was 19 or 20, and I played flute at the time. I also sang, but they didn't have a vocal department at the time. So I went for flute and arranging and composition, but I also was, one of the 10% females in the school, so, and I was young and, I mean, I did get stuff out of it, but, I also was very distracted. And when I really think like I kind of missed out on not really getting into, the arranging and composition part. And I kept thinking over the years that I would get into it again, but I never did actually. And but I could. I talked to John DeVersa and I was telling him something like this, and he said, "Okay, I'm giving you an assignment. I want a violin quartet piece, like in a month." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't do that." And he said, "Yes, you can. Come
Yes,
on."
you can.
You know. So
Nice. I love that.
yeah.
I was studying piano with Vardan for a while, for years actually, like 3 years.
Oh, cool.
And I would get assignments like that, okay, go home and I want to see, whatever, write 16 bars of something new and we'll talk about it when you bring it back. And that was kicked my ass. And then the pandemic that was the end of that. And I kind of, I still practice piano and I work on my own. I might go
Yeah.
back someday or maybe branch off and study. I learn from everybody. So,
Yeah, I actually took a flute lesson in the pandemic from Laurie Bell, who's a really good flutist.
hmm,
And but I didn't practice because I just got distracted by other things, so there you go. You just whatever you choose, that's what's
yep,
going to happen.
yep.
I'm just going to tell everybody that post I post Thursday through Sunday, like from the archives. So there's Peter Sprague and a singer,
Mm,
Rebecca Jade. They did something called Planet Cole Porter, which was really cool. So they're on Thursday, and then Putter Smith and his wife, who passed away last year, VR. So they're on Friday, and Saturday the trombonist Scott Whitfield, and Sunday great singer and composer Kevin Littau.
oh, I love Kevin.
So if people want to see who's on, you can just go to my website because I keep up on posting who's coming. And I'm going to end off, but will you stay on for a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll end off, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being here. Don't forget Saturday in Playa Vista, I have a gig called the Conference Room. And again, on my website, you can find parking information and all that kind of stuff. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Cathy. This is so much fun.
Goodbye, everyone.